Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. Uh, Thank you so much for joining us. On the behalf of National Center for Academic Publishing Center, I would like to welcome you all of you for this webinar. So my name is Eeman Ahmad. Currently, I am a fourth year MBA student at the United Medical Dental College. So NCAP is a student academic and research mentorship organization established with the vision of making high quality research mentorship. Actually, we are the five medical students from the different universities. Currently, we have Hamad Javed, co-president with me, and we have Ali Kesar Jadoon, treasurer for NCAP, and we have Hamza Aziz and Hafsa Khalid for the vice president. So our goal is only to empower the students by creating opportunities for learning and the collaboration. So this is one of the platform uh, we want to make this and utilize this to grow in the research journey. So this is our second step. Initially on the Sunday, we have organized the LT workshop as a basic introduction. So this webinar was actually postponed due to some unusual conditions. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining and keeping with us your whole attention with us. So there are some points I want to actually mention you. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the session until and unless you have any question. You can raise the hand, and only e-certificate will be provided to those who have filled with the sign in and a sign out form. And sign in and sign out form will be shared with all of you in the chat box. So at the last moment, I really want to introduce an estimated speaker for today's webinar, Dr. Eeman Ahmad. So Dr. Eeman Ahmad is a graduate of Foundation Medical Hospital College of Medicine and Dentistry in 2025. And she has 70 plus publication and 40 plus cited works to her now. Her dedication to research and academic excellence has earned her prestigious Research of the Year award at her college, FMH College of Medicine and Dentistry. She has been really great with her extracurricular activities. She was a past president for the Center for Health Sciences and Research at her college and vice president for the internal of a medical student for Climate Action Pakistan. She's currently a founder of Sehat Agai, a community service initiative dedicated to improving health literacy among underserved and urban communities across Pakistan. So one of the great achievements she's working on is she's actually authored of book chapter on the geriatric neurosurgery, currently in production with Elsevier Science Direct. So by by my heart and on the behalf of NCAP, I really want to thank you to Dr. Eeman Ahmad for joining us as a speaker. So thank you so much, Dr. Eeman Ahmad, and now the floor is yours. So please carry on. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, and thank you to the team at NCAP for inviting me to today's webinar. So I'll just share my screens. Please do let me know if you guys can see my slides. Are my slides visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, great. Okay, so before we begin,
it's kind of blur. So yeah.
um,
So it's a blur, alright, possibly you can.
okay, let me just check my internet. Just a
Yeah,
second.
it's not right. It's
Okay, so before we begin, I will just I wanted to start with a personal anecdote. I know that almost everyone who's joined this session today, and medical students in general, they're kind of a species that's chronically anxious, chronically nervous, because we're always comparing ourselves to other people. We're always comparing ourselves to our colleagues, right? We're always looking at how much someone has covered in terms of studying. We are always going to be comparing our publications with other people, and this comparison is not just amongst classmates or your colleagues. This comparison extends to your juniors as well, right? So you'll start comparing yourself to a junior. You might feel like, you know, you are running behind because you only have 5 publications, but they have 10 publications. You know, the rat race just never ends. um and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like this is something that is very problematic, and it is something that we are unable to control until we recognize it. And I wanted to share this with you guys so that you start to acknowledge and recognize this fact that you are in this rat race that you shouldn't be in. So for me personally, I started preparing for step 1 a long time ago, and I was almost ready to give step 1 in the middle of final year. So back in September, I gave my first NPME and I scored really well. All of my friends and my mentors told me that I would be able to give the exam in just a few weeks' time, considering my NPME score. I gave my NPME in September, and unfortunately, my father passed away right after that NPME. And that changed my circumstances. Obviously, it did. And it changed the entire situation drastically. So I ended up giving my step 1 in January then. So I had a delay of about 4 to 5 months. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you guys is because if someone has 10 publications and if you only have 5 publications, you have to consider that their circumstances at home, that their circumstances at university, the resources that they could be drastically different to what you have at home and at college, right? Maybe they have access to a faster laptop and you don't have access to one, right? It's just the little things that matter so much, and these things are not in your control a lot of times. So the only thing that you can do is that you can just keep trying hard. And I know that it sounds like a cliche, but the only person that you should compare yourself is yourself, right? So compare yourself to the person that you were yesterday. And again, I know कि बहुत cliche बात है, but it is the truth, and it is the only way that you will be able to, you know, sort of relax, and you will be able to work better and work more efficiently. Because as long as you are nervous, as long as you're anxious, as long as you remain chronically anxious, you will not be able to work efficiently, and you will not be able to realize the actual power of research. So let's just dive into the presentation, and I would request the team to please let me know if there's any questions in the comments, because I cannot see the comments here. So let's begin. Okay. Okay, so the team at NCAP actually asked me to share my inspiration for getting into research. So I was in a very privileged position in the sense that before I stepped into medical school, I knew about research. I knew what it was. I knew that people worked together in teams and published papers. And the reason behind that was because my mother worked in research. She is a doctor. So she is the one who exposed me to this area, right? I understand my privilege. I know that a lot of people discover research when they are in final year, even after, sometimes even after they've graduated, right? So again, my circumstances were different. Um, but I do think that there's a lot of more, there's a lot more people who are getting into research now because of the internet, because of Instagram, because of Twitter, because there's a lot more awareness now compared to when I was back in first year, right? A lot of my classmates discovered research when I started posting about my own articles and my own acceptances. So that was back in fourth year. And also, this does apply to a lot of people. A lot of people will see role models around them. So they'll have siblings, they'll have parents, they'll have cousins who are working in research. So that's how they'll discover it. But then there will be people who have future plans that require research. So, for example, there will be people who want to go to the US for residency. They'll discover that research is an important aspect of their residency application. That's when they will discover research. So that is something that might happen, after graduation. And then another thing that inspired me to keep working, another thing that motivated me to keep working, was a sense of academic achievement. So research is unique in the sense that A lot of times you'll see extracurriculars, for example, sports, that give you a sense of achievement when you win an award. But with research, yes, it does give you a similar sense of achievement, but at the same time, it's an academic achievement because you are working on medical topics, right? You're learning something about medicine. So in that sense is a very unique co-curricular activity. I wouldn't call it an extracurricular activity because it is a co-curricular activity. It's working alongside your curriculum, right? So it is very unique in that sense, and that is also a motivation because it will help you to become a better student. It will help you to become a better doctor if you keep working on research, right? And another thing that the team asked me to share was my journey. So, as I mentioned, I had the unique privilege of having a role model around me before I even entered medical school. So, I started working on research when I was in A levels. This was back in 2020. So, during the pandemic, I was at home and I asked my mother to help me out and teach me about research, right? So, that's how I started. And then I continued taking workshops. So my cousin introduced me to ARCOP. I believe that a lot of you might have heard about ARCOP, and there are a lot of organizations now that offer various workshops and mentorship opportunities. So that is something that a lot of people start with, and that's also how I started. And then I kept taking random workshops. I kept trying to learn various types of research studies, various types of papers, various types of data analyses. I kept experimenting with softwares, and that learning phase continued up until third year. So I started working a lot in third year, and I finally saw the output of my hard work towards the end of third year. So it took a very long time to reach this position. And then in fourth year, I saw a significant rise in my publications. So the majority and significant output that I
Hello,
had.
Eeman. Sorry
Sorry.
to interrupt you midway.
Mhm.
Very sorry to interrupt you midway. But are you sharing your PowerPoint presentation? Because it only states that click here to exit full screen. If you sharing your PowerPoint presentation, people are not able to see that.
Oh, let me just check.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
it only says click here for exit. But I think you have to do is share your entire screen. तो शायद उसके बाद
Mm-hmm.
visible हो जाए.
Okay, just a second.
अब it's visible now. But once you click the full screen,
Hmm.
that चला जाता है.
Yeah,
हाँ,
okay. Let me just fix that. One
so
second.
thank you so much. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know you guys cannot see my presentation. I'm so sorry. Let me share my screen again.
Huh. Now it's visible. Now it's
Okay, okay. Okay, okay.
thank
Okay, so we've only been through one slide, abhi tak, theek hai? So I was on the second slide. So as I told you guys, I started seeing significant output in fourth year. So you guys have to keep in mind that it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of papers to get your first paper published, right? And that is what I've mentioned here as well. There were several years of work before I started seeing significant output. So make sure that you're not discouraged if you have worked on 10 papers, for example. If you've worked on 20 papers, for example, you might only get one or two published until you've, involved yourself in 10 to 20 projects. Okay. So the team also asked me to talk about research organization and research communities. So I mentioned ARCOP before. That is one of the first research organization that popped up in Pakistan. There are several more that have popped up now, and I'm sure you can find those on Instagram, on Facebook. But these research organizations do provide a source of mentorship. So, for example, you might not be able to find a mentor in your medical school. Maybe there's not a culture of research over there, but through these research organization, you'll be able to connect with someone who can help you out and who can guide you in your first project. And besides mentors and besides networking with experienced people, you also have the opportunity to network with people who are similar to you in terms of experience. So the most important thing that I got out of joining a research organization or joining a research workshop was the fact that I was able to connect with people who were at a similar level in terms of experience, in terms of learning. And that helped me later on because when they reached a certain stage, so for example, there were a few seniors who are now in the US. I've stayed in touch with them and they've been able to help me out on how they reached the position that they're in now. So, some people are research fellows now, some people are residents, and they've been able to share their experiences with me. And that is the most significant thing that you can get out of joining a research organization or research community. Okay. And another thing that I've mentioned here is that sometimes experienced researchers will not pay heed. So we'll talk about this more as the presentation goes on. But essentially, sometimes if you reach out to someone, if they have 10 publications, for example, and you're reaching out to them and you're telling them that you can, for example, you can work on Joint Point, right, which is a software, but you don't have anything to show to them. You don't have a publication yet, but you have worked on projects. They might not want to believe you, and they're not in the wrong, right? Because you don't really have a proof of what your you don't have a proof of your claims, right? And that is completely okay. But the point of joining a research organization is not just to look for mentors, it is to network with people who are at the same level as you, okay, which is something that I've talked about before. But at the same time, when you join a research community, so for example, you've joined a WhatsApp group, and people are sharing research opportunities there. So someone sent in a message that says that, oh, please DM me if you want to work on a project. And you DM them, and then you talk about the project, and then suddenly they ask you for money. So be mindful of scammers, and also be mindful of people who are not telling the truth. So I've personally seen people exaggerate their number of publications, or they exaggerate the time that they got those publications in. So, for example, I told you that it took me a very long time to get the publications that I have now. There might be people who are claiming to have published 10 papers in just a month. Okay, that doesn't sound realistic. It sounds too good to be true. So, whenever you see something like that, make sure that you do your own research. You look for their LinkedIn or Google Scholar, or you search their name on PubMed. Um, and make sure that you verify those claims. That is very important. Before you start working with someone, make sure that you know about their profile, because it's not just about people who lie, but there might be people who do have publications, but if they seem sketchy, do not connect yourself and do not associate yourself with them, because the sketchy publications do get retracted later on, and that is going to be a huge red flag on your CV. If you have 10 publications and down the road 7 of them get retracted, that is going to be a huge red flag. You will not be able to explain that to program directors in the future who are interviewing you for residency or for any other job for that matter, because it's something that's going to be visible on PubMed and on the internet forever until you die, even after you die. And you don't want that, obviously. Okay? So please don't associate yourself with people who have that kind of profile and who have those kind of sketchy profiles. And if someone is making claims that are too good to be true, if someone's promising you a publication, don't associate yourself with them, because no one can promise you a publication. ठीक है, a lot of times आप सही काम करते हो but it doesn't get published, and that's not in anyone's hands. ठीक है, and if someone is promising you that they'll get you published in a certain journal or in a certain level, in a certain kind of journal, don't associate yourself with them. Keep your eyes and ears open, and if at any point you feel like if you feel confused, make sure that you reach out to a senior, or you could reach out to me, or you could reach out to the team at NCAP to just sort of discuss the case before you start working with someone. Okay? And this not just applies to people who are more experienced, but this also applies to your colleagues, people who are at the same level as you. Okay? Unke saath bhi don't associate yourself with them if they're making such sort of claims. Okay? That is something that I really wanted to emphasize on, because unfortunately जितनी जितनी ज़्यादा अवेयरनेस हो रही है उतनी ज़्यादा ये चीज़ भी prevalent हो रही है. People are falling into traps, and it's just very unfortunate. So it's something that you need to be mindful about, and something that you need to be careful about. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so another thing that the team at NCAP asked me to discuss was the fact that, who should pursue research? And the short answer to that is everyone. It's especially important for people who are going abroad, and I think ये बात तो सबको ही पता है कि for the US, the residency application has a separate section for research, so it's very important. For the UK, again, research is very important. It has certain points over there, and everywhere you go, when you're giving an interview, they're going to ask you about your publications. Okay? They're going to ask you about your projects. So it's very important. Even in Pakistan, if you're applying for residency, or if you're applying for jobs, or even for people who are older or more experienced, when they're applying for jobs, they are asked about their publications. Okay? In interviews, especially. It might not have marks, but it does get asked about in interviews. It's also very important for people who are looking to pursue non-clinical careers. So in a medical school class, there will be three kinds of people. Number one, there will be people who are looking to pursue a clinical career in Pakistan. Number two, there will be people who are looking to pursue a clinical career outside of Pakistan. And then number three, there will be a group of people who are looking to pursue non-clinical jobs, or looking to work in public health, for example. Who are looking to work in biomedical engineering, for example. So all of these people will need research at some point, and that basically includes everyone then, right? So each and every person who is listening right now, and each and every person in your medical school's class, they need to pursue research, because it's something that you can just not live without. Okay? It drives evidence-based medicine, it drives public health, it drives community medicine, it drives everything. So each and every person in a medical school should be looking into research. And the team also asked me to share the kind of opportunities that you might get through working in research. So we talked a lot about networking before, and that I feel like is the most important opportunity and the most important positive thing that you get out of working in research. You get the opportunity to network with people, to make a good relationship with people who might be able to help you down the road. So, for example, if I network with someone who is a few years senior than myself, and they match into a good residency program, and I stay in touch with them, I work on projects with them, I have a good reputation with them, they might be able to put in a good word for me later on down the road in their own residency program. You might also be able to reach out to senior physicians, physician scientists, people who are in very senior positions. If you are able to reach out to them and work with them on a research project, you might be able to get an LOR from them, which again will be of huge significance when you apply for any job or anything later on, right? And another important thing is academic learning. This is also something that I touched in one of our previous slides. Research is a unique co-curricular activity, because you're not just working on a project, you're not just getting a publication, you are also learning a lot from it. You're learning academically, and that is the goal of being in medical school, right? आप medical school में आते क्यों, आप college में आते क्यों, पढ़ने के लिए. And this research provides an opportunity to do that as well, in a very unique way and in a very interesting way, in a way that will make you feel good, and in a way that will give you a sense of achievement. Okay, so you'll be wondering why this slide came up again. It's because I wanted to re-emphasize on how long it took for me to get any significant output. So A-levels was back in 2020, and then 2021, 22, 23, 24. So in 2024, I started seeing significant output. So that was almost 4 to 5 years later, right? It took a very long time. And that is important to acknowledge and realize, because I know that a lot of people get demotivated that, we've been working on research for 6 months, but we don't have a publication yet. Well, 6 months is not a very long time. I know it feels distressing, it feels demotivating, but you need to look at examples such as my own. And even if you talk to seniors who have a lot of publications, they'll have a similar journey. Okay, okay, they started uh, at the start of medical school, but then they started seeing significant output 2 to 3 years later. Okay, so 2 to 3 years is the minimum time. I know 4 to 5 years might sound like a lot, but then again, वो भी बहुत normal है. It's a very normal timeline. So the point is, do not give up. And to help you guys out and to keep you guys motivated, I wanted to share a small roadmap with you guys, because a lot of people reach out to me and they ask me कि आपने किया कैसे था, right? So I could share this journey with them, and उनको यही लगेगा कि मतलब अब मैं exactly करूँ क्या, right? Like ठीक है, you've told me कि 4 5 years लग जाएंगे, but what exactly do I need to do to reach in your position? So this small roadmap might help you out. So the first step that you need to do is attend a workshop. And congratulations, you've done that already. You're doing that today, right now. After that, you learn from the workshop. So I know that the team at NCAP also had an LTE workshop. They might have more workshops in the future, which you could join to learn specific skills, right? And then after that, make a LinkedIn account. So why is this important? This is not just important for networking, but this is also important to look at current trends. So you need to see what other medical students are working in. So, are people working on meta analyses, for example? And if they are, then you need to start learning that particular skill. Okay? And after that, you can also look for current trends on PubMed. So go on PubMed and just write Pakistan and just search Pakistan. Okay? You'll see authors from Pakistan and you'll see what they're working on, what kind of research studies they're doing, what kind of topics that they're working on. And then you can start working on similar studies. And the reason behind that is because एक ट्रेंड होता है, राइट? एक फॉर एग्जांपल मेटा एनालिसिस का ट्रेंड फ्यू इयर्स अगो ज़्यादा हुआ था, एंड इफ यू नो दैट पर्टिकुलर स्किल देन यू विल बी एबल टू गेट मोर पीपल टू वर्क विथ यू. ठीक है? And then you can also reach out to seniors from not just your own medical school, but from other medical schools as well. Because as we talked about earlier, there might not be a culture at your own medical school to work in on research. So in that case, you can reach out to people from other medical schools as well. And this you're going to do through LinkedIn, obviously. And they might not pay heed to you, as I mentioned before. Experienced researchers might not want to work with someone who doesn't have any proof for their claims. So in that case, what you can do is you can look for your own topics. So for example, you've decided you want to do a meta-analysis. You go on PubMed, you look for your own topics, and then you invite others to work on that. So you might reach out to me, for example, and you tell me that, oh, I saw a few studies on this topic, and I think that there hasn't been any meta-analysis on this before, and I feel like we could work on this. Would you be interested? Okay, write a very professional message, and that in that way you'll be able to invite that they might want to work with you, and that is an easier way to collaborate with someone as opposed to asking for them for an opportunity. You get what I mean? So if asking others for opportunities is not working out, make your own opportunity. And whoever that you collaborate with, make sure that the work that they're doing is accurate. So for example, you have asked your if you've asked two of your classmates to work with you on a meta-analysis and you've asked them to do data extraction, right? वो data extraction कर रहे हैं and you find out that it's not accurate. So make sure that you double check their work. ठीक है, whoever that you work with for the first time, make sure that you're double checking their work. ठीक है, इसमें micromanaging वाला aspect नहीं है, but you just want to make sure that whatever your name is associated with, कोई काम अगर publish हो रहा है and your name is on that paper, you want to make sure that the results and the whatever is mentioned in that paper is very accurate. ठीक है, and this is not only limited to data analysis or data extraction. This extends to the actual manuscript as well. You want to make sure that whatever is written over there is very accurate, right? So make sure that you double check the work whenever you're working with someone, again, especially if it's your first or second time working with them. Okay? And if you realize that काम accurate नहीं है, then don't work with them again. Okay? Just it should be a deal breaker for you. Okay? Because the problem is that अगर inaccurate काम publish हो जाता है, ठीक है, down the road it might get retracted, and again it's going to be a very big, very huge red flag for you, and you don't want to be in that position. So to prevent that from happening, make sure that you just don't work with someone like that in the first place. And in case you do end up, if in case that something like that does end up happening, you can reach out to the journal in time, and then you can ask them to publish a correction. ठीक है, a correction notice. आप लोग PubMed पे जाके देखिएगा, correction notices publish होते हैं, and that is a way to, you know, prevent your article from getting retracted. Like, you admit your own mistake and you allow them to publish a correction notice. Okay, but just try that, you know, things don't get to that point. Best say, okay. Just be very careful and keep your eyes open. And yeah, that is something I really wanted to emphasize on, because it's something that I've experienced in the past. But fortunately, इस तरह का कभी कुछ publish नहीं हुआ. I was able to catch it while we were working on the paper. Okay. The team also asked me to clear out a few common misconceptions. So I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, we're just in first year, अभी तो हमें research करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, या अभी हमें research करनी नहीं चाहिए, for whatever reason. As I shared my journey with you guys before, it took me a lot of time to get a few publications. So if you don't start in first year, you are already late. If you don't start the day that you walk into medical school, you are already late. Okay? So whenever you hear about research, whenever you hear about an opportunity, no matter what point you are in med school, just join that workshop, join that opportunity, just say yes to everything, at least in the start. Another misconception that I've heard a lot is that you need a faculty member or you need an experienced researcher or a senior with you to be able to do research. In some cases, that might be true, but in the in the types of studies that a lot of students do, for example, meta-analyses, for example, database studies, that is not true at all. Okay, you can work on these types of studies yourselves. अगर कोई original study है, if there's, you know, some kind of bench work involved, if there's some kind of patient interaction involved, then yes, you might need a faculty member, especially to, you know, to get approval from the ethics committee. In that case, yes, you need someone, but generally to get started, you don't need to depend on anyone at all. You can work independently. And another misconception that I've heard is that you need to have studied the relevant topic to do research. So for example, if you're working on cirrhosis, for example, okay, so you might feel like you should have studied liver pathology before you started working on this paper, but that's not the case. Okay, cirrhosis मैंने इसलिए mention किया because that is, you know, one of the papers that I worked on was on liver cirrhosis, and मैंने उसी paper से learn किया था, right? And मुझे अभी तक इसलिए अच्छे से आता है because मैंने वो paper किया, उस paper पे काम किया था. So that's something to keep in mind. And that is the end of my presentation. So this is my email address, and you guys can also reach out to me on my public Instagram. I'll share the link with the team so they can share it in the WhatsApp group. But that is it from my side. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions if you guys have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eeman. Thank you so much for this insightful session. I hope everyone should be like सबको इस वेबिनार से हेल्प मिली होगी एंड थैंक यू सो मच एंड guys if you have any question please you can ask and unmute yourself as well.
Okay, so there is a question here. Since you talked about trend lately, a lot of people are publishing CDC based work. So is it worth it investing time into CDC based research, or we should work on original researches? Okay, so it really depends on your own interests as well. I know that a lot of people are working on CDC wonder papers. It might be a good idea to learn that skill because abhi ye trend mein, right? This trend will die down slowly, but abhi to network with people and to have people work with you, you might want to learn that skill. It will help you out, I think. If someone reached out to me with an idea, I might work with them. Agar if they told me they know how to do the analysis, I would work with them. And then later on down the road, I might stay in touch with them and then work with them on an original research later on. By the way, CDC is also a kind of original research because it's a database study. It's a retrospective study, right? The original research ही होती है because there's original patient data. So the I think it depends on your interests, and I feel like in the start, at least as a beginner, आप कुछ भी करो, just keep working. कोई भी study type हो, just don't limit yourself. I think, in my opinion, if you are seeing people who are if you are seeing a lot of people who are working on CDC, then go ahead and learn that skill and try to work with them. I hope that answers your question. I know कि बहुत vague answer था, but at the end, there are some decisions that you might need to, take yourself. तो वो खुद ही आपको देखना होता है कि अगर आपका इंटरेस्ट है, if you want to work on it, for example, मैंने पोस्ट किया है कि मैं CDC पेपर्स पे काम कर रही हूँ, ठीक है, and you want to work with me, तो फिर yes, you should learn that skill. If you see Ali Kessler, for example, posting about CDC papers and you want to work with him, then yes, you should learn that skill. ठीक है, वो फिर आपके फायदे की बात है.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eeman. I have one question. You talked about the retracted papers. So, what are the main reasons for these retracted papers? Like, so if you can talk about it.
Okay, so the reason behind retracted papers is usually, uh, at least from what I've seen, is usually fake data. ठीक है? And there's no way of telling whether the data that you're working on is fake if you're collaborating with someone or उन्होंने आपको data भेजा था. ठीक है? For example, I'm working with person X and उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि they collected data and they want my services for data analysis. ठीक है? मैंने सिर्फ data analysis करके मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट में थोड़ा सा काम करके मैंने छोड़ दिया. ठीक है? अब मुझे नहीं पता वो डेटा रियल था या नहीं था. ठीक है? तो this is unfortunately one of the limitations of collaborating with other people as well. Okay, you have to know somehow, you need to have some kind of guarantee that the data that they're sharing with you is true and not fake. Okay, तो क्योंकि sometime down the road कोई email कर दे journal को, कोई बता दे कि ये data fake किया गया था, तो फिर उस पे investigation होती है, and फिर if you can't sorry, if you can't prove कि the data was real, तो फिर retraction हो जाती है. ठीक है, ये one of the main reasons है जो मैंने देखा है. There's also another question. What are your thoughts about AI in medical science? Would you suggest to do research in that field? So it's obviously a very emerging topic, very trendy topic. So yes, definitely you could look sorry, you could definitely look into it. If you are talking about implementing AI in your own research, you could do that, but please make sure that you are doing that only for ideas. For example, जो आपका manuscript है, the entirety of your manuscript should be absolutely original. Please don't use AI to write your manuscript. If you're involved with someone in their research and work throughout the process, then will that be counted in our publications? Yes, obviously, if you've fulfilled the criteria to be an author, it will be counted in your publication. Okay? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced while publishing your first paper? So there were a lot of challenges. Obviously, one of the biggest challenge that I think everyone faces is finding the right journal, because a lot of journals are paid you have to pay to publish in them. So that is a big limitation. Okay, I will encourage you guys to never ever pay to publish in a journal, because there are closed access journals that you can publish in. Okay, and then obviously finding a relevant journal that is willing to accept your article. So the first article that I got published was a review article. Okay, and journals don't really accept narrative reviews, and that is something I discovered after having worked on a lot of narrative reviews. Okay, so that was also a challenge. um I think यही दो main challenges होते हैं. Number one, finding finding a free journal to publishing, and number two, finding out that the study type that you've worked on, journals don't really want to publish that study type. How can a beginner start research with no prior experience? So I've shared a roadmap with you guys, and I'll ask the team to share the slides with you so you can just go through that roadmap. The first thing that you can do is join a workshop and learn a particular skill. The second thing is to sign up on LinkedIn, to look at current trends and to network with people. And then the third thing is to look for your own topics, start your own projects, reach out to people to collaborate with you, and then just publish your paper. You can reach out to me via email and through my public Instagram. Currently, I do not provide mentorship, but I think that the team at NCAP is planning on providing mentorship in the future. So you guys can reach out to them whenever they post about it. I'm happy to help out though. Like if you have any questions, then I can help out, but I don't provide mentorship like that, at least not right now. Do you think the quality of research is more important than quantity? I think that both are very important. I think it's important to have a good output, but it's important to make sure that the quality of the papers that you're publishing is up to the mark as well. So if you have 10 papers and all of them are LTEs, then that is also not a good scenario to be in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eeman. For 3 minutes, we will be taking questions. So if anyone have any question, please ask. Yeah, so we have.
Okay, so someone has asked if I could suggest any journals where we can publish our research work. So this is the answer to this question is very broad. The one way that you can find journals is to again go on PubMed and search your particular topic. आपने for example cirrhosis पे काम किया है, cirrhosis in space Pakistan. ठीक है? Why I emphasize in adding Pakistan is because you in this way you'll see journals that are publishing work on liver cirrhosis, and you'll see authors from Pakistan publishing their you'll see authors from Pakistan and where they're publishing their own papers. ठीक है? उसका एक ये फायदा होता है that generally people from Pakistan publish in closed access journals or publish in journals that are free. ठीक है, तो उससे आपको ना अगेन ट्रेंड्स का पता चल जाता है कि इन जर्नल्स में पाकिस्तानी ऑथर्स का काम पब्लिश हो रहा है. सो जस्ट यूज पबमेड टू द बेस्ट ऑफ योर एबिलिटीज. And other than that, a lot of people publish their first papers in JPMA. It is a paid journal, but I think the fee is not a lot. I'm not entirely sure, but you could look into that as well. Yeah, so I mentioned my email in the last slide, but I'll ask the team to share it with you guys in the WhatsApp group.
So if anyone has any question, he or she can unmute or comment on the box.
The most important skill to become a good researcher is to be a good writer. Because research जब आप करते हैं तो आपने उसको publish किस तरह करना है? In the form of a paper, in the form of a manuscript. ठीक है? आपने कोई भी आपका role हो in the project, you will have to have contributed to the manuscript in some way to be able to qualify for authorship. ठीक है? क्योंकि authorship का भी एक criteria होता है that you need to fulfill. So the number one skill that you need to have is to be a good writer. उसके बाद जो चीजें होती हैं, all of those things are secondary. So for example, data sorry. For example, data analysis, it is a secondary thing. आपको ज़रूरी नहीं है कि data analysis आता हो to be able to publish papers. ठीक है, just make sure you're a very good writer.
Dr. Iman, I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Like you have a 70 publications. So what keeps you motivated after publishing more than 70 papers? Still you're working on it. So is there any specific
That is a very
motivation
good
there?
question. After a certain point, it does get old. When you will get your first publication, you'll be over the moon. Okay, when you'll get your first conference abstract, you'll be over the moon. But after a certain point, that dopamine rush just becomes old. ठीक है, मतलब आपको इससे कोई इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But I think कि motivation जो है वो यही होती है कि you're just learning from every project. ठीक है, no matter how many projects that you've worked on, हर project unique होगा, right? एक unique disease के बारे में होगा, किसी भी यूनिक डिजीज के बारे में होगा, एंड वो डिजीज यू माइट सी इन अ पेशेंट लेटर ऑन. ठीक है, सो दैट्स व्हाट कीप्स मी गोइंग कि जो भी मैं रिसर्च कर रही हूँ, जो भी मैं काम कर रही हूँ, इज गोइंग टू हेल्प माय पेशेंट्स इन द फ्यूचर. सो I feel like you guys can also apply that mentality when you're working on research. There's also a few more questions here in the chat. How did you manage to balance research with studying for professional exams? I did not manage it. It's very difficult. It also delayed my step as well. But you have to prioritize according to your timeline. So, for example, if you have profs in winter, then you have to just completely cut off from research during those months. तो आपको खुद देखना होता है कि आपने किस तरह से manage करना है. And also, if you see your classmate working on research और अगले दिन paper है, don't copy them. ठीक है, they might be able to handle that, they might be able to manage that, but if you feel like you cannot manage that, then don't put yourself through that trouble. ठीक है, again उसी point पे हम आ जाते हैं कि don't compare yourself to other people. Okay, so someone's asked about how many publications or research projects do applicants usually have when applying for the US match. Sorry. It does vary between specialties, but I will tell you that people sometimes have zero publications when they're applying for the match. Okay, so it's not a necessity like that. You should have one or two publications, okay, at least one or two publications to show that you know that skill. But there are certain programs that don't really care about it. So, for example, community-based programs, primary care programs, they will not care about how many publications you have because उनको research से कोई लेना देना ही नहीं होता. What is the best year to start doing research? The best year to start is first year. Yeah, the best time to start to get involved in research is the day that you step into medical school. Just दिन आपका admission हो जाता है ना, उस दिन you should start doing research. In my opinion.
So if anyone has any question, please ask now. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Eeman, for this insightful webinar. And I hope NCAP team will always will be thankful to you for this and will be connected to you for future. So thank you so much, and thank you so much everyone for joining and for your time. So we are concluding our webinar now. So you can leave, and thank you so much. So please make sure you have fill out the sign out and sign in form both. So thank you so much. You can. Thank you so much, Dr. Eeman.